6:41. I'd like to call to order the Waukegan Public School Board of Education Student Achievement Committee meeting. If I can have and it's April 16th. If I can have a roll call, please.
Mr. McBride,
Yes.
Mr. Riddle, Ms. Hannah, Ms. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Ms. Fabian,
Yes.
Ms. Lansing,
Yes.
President Ewan.
Yes, we do have a quorum. Mr. Riddle had a obligation and is unable to be here this evening. With that, we have item 3A, approval of the March 19th, 2024 minutes.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Ms. Gonzalez. Any comments or questions? Second by Mr. McBride. Any comments, questions, corrections? All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. We have items that have been submitted for information, and then I do want to, in transparency and fairness to the public, if there's a question, there are attachments there that were presented and online, so I'm gonna run through them, and if you have a question about it, just raise your hand. Same thing for a board if you guys would like to ask a question. I also, Ms. Hannah has been, between her and Mr. Alajakis, they are resident storm chasers, and so she let me know that we are expecting some bad weather, and so we are trying to get through as expeditiously as possible. So item 5A is the Waukegan High School Counselor's Professional Development Request. The information has been presented there.
Brandon, can I go back to the meeting? Can you write me down as a pass? I was not at that meeting.
Okay, yep. So if we would record Ms. Fabian as a pass for the minutes. Now we are at item 5A, and you had a question, Ms. Anna?
Yeah, I do. Can somebody tell me how many counselors we have at the high school? How many presently do we have at the high school?
By campus?
Both. How many do we have, and are there any open positions?
Good question. Good evening, everyone. Jason Nault standing in for Dr. Cesario, representing the academics team this evening. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head at each campus. Ms. Hannah, I do know to start this school year, Brookside had some vacancies, and I believe they have filled all those vacancies to start for the next school year that they've recruited and are putting forward some names for to hire folks for the 24-25 school year.
And Dr. Naut, I see Dr. Bubblets has his hand. Dr. Bubblets.
Oh, okay. They have one.
So there's 4 at this school year. There were 4 open positions.
It's right there.
It's for the people online.
So we have 8 at each campus at Brookside and Washington campus. And at the beginning of the school year, there were 4 vacancies at Brookside. I can't speak to AOEC because I'm not sure if they have, I think they only have 1 college career and 1 counselor, but I'm not sure. But those are
So
the
that's
numbers.
presently what we have now?
In terms of staff that are hired or
No,
working
no,
staff?
that are in the building working with students now.
That I don't know. I'm gonna have to get back to you on the
Now,
Brookside.
maybe
answer.
I
don't
see
know.
Miss Patty back there. Superintendent. Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Amanda, you can just come. It's easier.
Good evening, board and community. We have done some work on hiring, especially for the Brookside campus this past fall. We have 4 current counselors on duty at Brookside campus, and we have 2 more that we've recently submitted names for moving forward with onboarding. And so we will have 6 counselors at Brookside campus from the information that I currently have. If that changes or if it has shifted, I will provide an update.
And Washington.
The same. Ms. Butler has that accurate. 8. Correct.
Fully staffed.
Okay, and so I got another question about the item.
Okay.
Okay, and so the people that are going on this conference in July, Ms. Ocampo and
Ms. Talon.
There's two.
Yeah, Ms. Talon. Okay, are they counselors?
They are counselors and they are new to Brookside, and so we wanted to make sure that some of the same professional development and training that some of the Washington campus counselors and other counselors had attended last summer through the ASCA conference. They attended with Ms. Fulton, I believe. These counselors were not part of that group that went, and so we wanted to make sure they had the same learning, the same opportunities, and the same common understanding of
Right.
the ASCA model. And so these counselors from Brookside are new to Brookside this current year, and we wanted to make sure they had that opportunity to develop.
And you just said that you guys are onboarding some?
I know that Ms. Arias, the assistant principal at Brookside campus, has recently recommended names for onboarding of counselors, but I don't believe they've gone through the full process yet, but I can circle back.
And reason I ask that
Sure.
is because if we're onboarding new counselors, why not include them in this conference
Sure.
as well?
I can check to see the status of their onboarding to find out where they are in that process, and if we're able to circle back to the board with additional names, we'll definitely present that as an opportunity once they are onboarded and fully hired by the district. They're not considered staff yet; they haven't gone through board docs yet as employees, and so when that time comes, then we can, of course, consider. We would definitely want to consider them to attend if possible. It just depends on the timing of when they're hired and when we can continue to register people for this particular conference if registration is still open.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Patty. Are there
Thank
any
you.
other questions on this item? All right, then we are at item B, 5B, proposed maximum healthcare staffing services contract.
I got a question about all the contracts, but you can name them.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Anna.
Well, I'm looking at the agenda items, and we got a lot of agency contracts coming up that are being asked to be approved. And my question is, why are we continuing to contract with these different agencies instead of actually recruiting for these positions to bring in our staff and not agency staff members, and so that they can be district employees, therefore having to adhere to the district contracts, the different rules, district rules and regulations, instead of continuing to pay out these exorbitant amounts of money for these contract agencies. That's all we seem to do. I never see anything coming from, and these are for the DL department, but I never see any names of individuals where they've been recruited and hired as district employees. And so I know it's easy to go to a contractor, okay, but we need our people in our district, and we could save some money, because right now we got 6 contracts that are being requested that the board approve. Okay, where's the effort to recruit and hire our own speech and language, to hire our own EPIC people, our own health care? Okay, and I understand everybody keeps talking about all these shortages and hard to fill positions and everything, but trust me, there's people out there that want to work. There's people out there that have the qualifications that we're looking for, and I think that the effort little bit harder effort to hire our own people instead of continually bringing these contract agencies here, because it not only causes issues with the school staff in these positions, because there's different rules and regulations, salaries and everything that they get versus our own people. And it's not right.
It's a very good question, Ms. Hannah, and you did touch on it. Excuse me. There is a shortage in all these areas, and that is a reality that we're facing. So, at the end of the day, the district still has an obligation to provide services to students. We can post positions and try to seek out applicants. If we get them, great. If we don't, then we have to look at other alternatives to do that. I do know the DL department has done some of their own internal recruiting outside of HR. And they are continuing to recruit when they go out to different venues and conferences and things like that. They're trying to recruit folks to come work in Waukegan. But again, if the people aren't available, we have to still find solutions to service the students who need these services. So it's a joint effort. It's not one or the other. I think it's both. And when it comes to contracts, I know we've had some in the past in the district as well. It's not, I think a lot of times people hone in on the cost of the contract and think that all goes towards salaries and benefits, and that's not always the case. It goes towards operating expenses, administrative expenses, and all of the above. So I know the DL department is doing the best they can to try to recruit individuals to their department, but at the end of the day, we still do have to provide services to students. So
Dr. North,
seeking out these contracts is the option.
Excuse me.
One of the options.
Let me finish with him. And so, are all of these different positions, are they all posted? Are they on Indeed? I know I get emails for Waukegan positions. Are they posted? Because I've never seen anything posted.
Outside of our own website, I can't speak to where HR also posts positions, but I know any vacancy that they have in the DL department is posted and has been posted for some time.
Yeah, and I saw this. Yeah.
If we can get the microphone.
Thank you, Dr. No.
You're welcome.
The agenda has many proposed outsourcing of staff from the DL department. There's nothing the HR department can do to fill these positions in the United States due to the reputation the Waukegan DL department has earned. Under Dr. Abbott, we're recognized as the innovator and above the curve. We were national leaders. Under the following several directors, we maintained our status. Under this administration, we can't keep staff for months. Last week, was it 13 that resigned as teachers, not counselors, social workers, psychologists? We're paying to outsource our related services year after year, and we pay twice the dollar amount that our budget is for the same teacher position. Let me repeat that. You pay twice as much when you go through a contractor. They get higher rate of pay. They have administrative costs. And if we can get people to come as contractors, why can't we get them to work here? The DL department has more administration positions than ever. I counted 7 new positions in the last 5 years, but where are the recruiting? I'd like a list from Dr. Bublitz of what exactly has been done, where, and when. Yet minimum Medicare and Medicaid billing is done, losing millions to this district. absent leadership with questionable attendance. The current administration is reactionary, not proactive. They run around like firemen, putting out fires, not preventing the forest fire. And I have an old friend, because I teach kindergarten, and Smokey said, only you can prevent your forest fires. I'm sorry, but we have to create systems to prevent this. This is year 5 of the transition is complete. Where is accountability? We have an agenda item to reimburse somebody for a conference in February. I thought that the board said they want to do this 2 months ahead of time. I must have been confused because it's 2 months in the rears. And I'll pass these papers to the board. I printed them out. The crisis training, I'm so glad we're getting it. 10 days before the end of the school year. And it's online. I'm sorry, I don't want my heart surgeon or my phlebotomist learning online. Some things can do online, but not crisis intervention. Everything can't be done that way. We are rehiring Embrace, but it still can't talk to IC, making extra work for teachers. And then I have the charts and the data on the 6 programs you're going to be voting on. And I'm telling you the amount of money, $180,000. We have one person that's got their own contract that is going to be $118 an hour, and it's for $110,000 a year. I'm a taxpayer. I thought I'd see the board talk about tiers for administration, but we get around it and we make this person a contractor. I will be presenting that to you in paper from what I download from board docs. We're paying Amston Therapy, $80,000 for nurses. Starting teachers is $50,000. Add 2 weeks that they get as nurses, that's $52,000. Add insurance, that's a $7,000 more. You're at $60,000. Guys, that's 33% more. I gained 33% of my weight back. I'm not happy. Take 33% off of everybody's salary. This is a workaround. It's not Figueroa. He brings the people. They leave. And nobody asks why. We had bilingual therapies, social workers, $80 to $105 an hour. Paraprofessionals, $45 to $65 an hour. We're not paying our paraprofessionals $45 an hour. Colleen Michaels has a contract. Epic, no rates listed. Aya Healthcare, speech, $90 an hour. At 6.5 hours, that's almost $600 a day. Almost $105,000 a year. Maximum Health, their list is just as bad. We're planning on outplacing 30 kids a year. We're getting a contract with Ombudsman. I thought we were bringing kids home. I thought we were using AOEC. I thought we were outplacing nobody more. But we're budgeting for it for 24, 5, 26, 27, 3 years out. We're planning on putting kids out. Where's the BEST program? Where is this special ed that we're going to house all here? When will the wraparound be here? And what are the people doing that were assigned there 2 years ago? It was going to open up in June of 23. My math's not so good, but I could have made a baby since then. That's 9 months ago, guys. We have already reassigned staff. All these positions are the DL department. because the demands are so high. They turn and they leave out of control. The department does nothing. Do they pick up the phone and call? Do they say, how are you doing when you leave? Why did you leave? No. It's the system, it's the money. I'm sorry. I love this district. And I'm very sad that my tax dollars are spending 30% more because we have a name and people don't want to come here and work. We have to go across the ocean where they don't know us because we're in the newspaper too often. He's too busy attending conferences to attend schools and maintain the staff, talking directly. I would challenge you to ask them to name 5 middle schools. I would ask you to challenge some of our directors that are responsible for the special ed services to name 5 of their teachers, or give you the dates of the last 5 times they met with the teacher. They're too good for it. These expenditures are out of control from the DL department. We've added a K-8 in the last 5-6 years, a K-8 quarter. We've added 2 new assistant directors. We've added BSs, ESs, ABA at 110 contracted, ESs, outplacement assistants, and yet the phone calls can't be answered. Where is the Medicaid billing? We should be getting reimbursements for nursing, OT, PT, social work, and speech. And it's not happening. Millions are lost over 5 years. This department cannot keep staff. It does nothing to train and retain staff. With all these administrators, why are we not having every position filled? Why are the trainings being done the last week of May? Everything is reactionary and too late. Staff are constantly asked to do things without training and at the last minute because of lack of planning coming from above. But DL's not the only one. We have AP testing, 40,000 this year, with students making an average of 1.7. If you know what an AP test, it means that you need a 3, 4, or 5 to get credit. Our average is 1.7. 25% aren't even showing up to these tests. These tests range from $75 to $150 a test. And we're blowing it. Students don't have to do anything or even say if they're coming. They don't take a practice test. They're told to show up. $75 a pop minimum. Then there's our late fees. 800 tests with under 25 of those students getting a 4 or 5 to get the college credit. But this is not a joke because, see, the state wants to see how many kids we have enrolled in AP classes. And that's one of those statistics we see. I don't know. I will hand out these papers with absolute the data to the admin. But, you know, there was a president once. His name was Harry Truman. Anybody know what I'm going to say? The buck stops here. We need to hold each other accountable. And we need to say, it's not working, and what are we going to do to fix it? I'm sorry. I did not want to come and speak. I didn't want to come back here. I'm retired. I don't talk. I didn't want to come back. I can't keep quiet. This money is out of control when you're spending 30% more because you send them running. And spending with zero accountability? My tax dollars? What should be going in these babies? You need, President Biden once said, don't tell me your priorities, show me your budget. And our budget could be greatly benefited by bringing everybody home, not having people contracted for 20 years. And I can name speech and OT where we're paying 30% more for 20 years. And they don't have to go to staff meetings. They're not part of the school staff. They don't do evening events. It's up to them. But we still pay the agency, in some of these contracts, 2 hours of pay every time the agency person calls in sick. Guys, 6.5 hours. That's not half a day, that's not a quarter. That's a third of your day. That's another third that we're overpaying. I haven't seen one background check. I want to know, is every one of these agency people going through the same background checks? I would challenge the board to ask Dr. Bubbles to name the middle schools, now that he's looked it up. Name 5 teachers he's met with in the last year. We'll go back to January. I will be handing this out. And I am collecting stories about Waukegan at my email. Be careful, somebody's FOIA'd it. It's gillen.mail.com. I'm done. It's really sad to see this waste. We need to be here together for the kids. I tried to say last year that we need to be positive here and not be the negative in bringing our dirty laundry forward. And I don't like that. I want to see the glory that this district had. But until we start saying the emperor has no clothes, and we all say it's wonderful, we're having problems, guys. We're paying for outplacements 3 years in the future, but we said we're going to bring everybody home.
So that was a statement, and it was rather lengthy. I do want to.
Sorry,
I
my mouth
know.
never shut up.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. I do want to remind civility, and I do want us to, if you got a statement, make the statement. But I would prefer if you ask questions for understanding. Mr. Vukovic.
Just kind of piggybacking off that, as far as contracted services, have we done any kind of an assessment on some of these as far as how many years we've been doing this? And I think Ms. Hannah brought up about trying to recruit people into those positions. You have add-on fees, markups to these agencies for management. We have management here. They have, some of them, if they're for-profit, there's a profit built into that. These people, when they work through an agency, the district is paying Social Security. If they were a teacher on the teacher's salary schedule here, the district doesn't pay the cost of that. The state of Illinois does. So you need to look at what your total expenditure is and how many years some of these programs have been outsourced. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vukovic. Mr. Edwards.
I just want to quote, because she said a whole mouthful here. And as she's saying the mouthful, I'm looking at a lot of you guys. A lot of you guys was up there about a year ago when an email surfaced about this same director of this department. And I'm asking this board, at what point do you guys say to y'allself, right? We got all of these directors, these coordinators, these managers. We have all this experience. Are we investing in us? All that money that y'all paying for these contracts, y'all can be paying to send our staff to school to be better, like you do your fringe. Like some of these administrators, they get to go back and get their education. Y'all help STEM, but you don't do the same thing for the teachers. And then I'm going to keep on talking about this director of the DL department, because Teresa, I'm going to call you out. When I reached out to you about my nephew, and I told you he didn't have a speech therapist, nobody was working with him. Y'all played with me. Y'all sat there and told me that y'all was going to take care of that. that he would have a speech therapist, Mr. Ewing. That's what they told me. But you know what they did? They sent another young lady there, forgot to tell her that he was deaf, so she came there to do work for who? Then y'all send Bam over there. Bam don't deal with the deaf kids. Y'all have my nephew in this district all of his life. He's 18. He's getting ready to be 19 in September, and he don't even know American Sign Language. He can't communicate with his mother. And I've done everything y'all asked me to do. I talked to you, board president. I talked to the superintendent. I talked to both deputy superintendents. I talked to the DL department. And still right now to this day, and I know, because I got it in my phone and I can pull it up, messages where I inbox y'all and text y'all over a year ago. And still nothing today. The problem with us keeping employees is these directors of these departments and that terrible HR. Y'all have had two firms that we've contracted and paid to come in to tell us what we already know. It was a waste of money then, and we still wasting money now. We brought that email to y'all. We wanted y'all to check Dr. Butler's attendance. We listed some facts in there for y'all, and y'all did no investigation. So I'm gonna say this, what seems to happen to me, or what seems to make sense to me, if you look like me, you can be investigated. But if you don't look like me, we won't investigate you. I'm gonna keep on talking about Dr. Hillary and how she was slung around here. Excuse me, Dr. Harris. And I don't have a problem with the area superintendent. That woman ain't never did anything to me. And I'm sorry I got to keep bringing that up because I feel bad for her because she don't deserve this. But in order for me to make my point and to get y'all to understand, there was a big difference there. And we did nothing, and we still doing nothing. I'm gonna say this, Dr. B needs to go, Angel needs to go, and y'all need to make that hard decision. And Miss Fabian, I'm calling you by name because now you work for ISPI. You know more, and you know what we going through ain't right. You know it's not okay. And as that Miss Margot just said, y'all contracting. So I'm paying this lady here $120,000, but I can contract somebody and pay them $160,000. You think they want to stay here? I feel bad for y'all because y'all are roughing with the tides. When someone moves, they look at two things: the city and the district. Our city is falling because the violence is terrible. And our district is failing because we are not properly educating our kids. We send an all administration on conferences, but no teachers. We send board members on 1 million conferences, but no teachers. Board members get to go, what are they teaching the teachers? Nothing. Miss Hannah, I see your face. I don't want to hear nothing. Bringing information back ain't teaching them. Bringing information back and telling us that you've been somewhere and you learned something ain't teaching. So that's all I'm saying. I just want y'all to be a little bit more considerate because the longer y'all keep doing this, they're going to keep on running. They're going to keep on leaving. We leaving this good man here. We losing this good man here, and I know he been the brains behind a lot of things. And we losing him. Who going to replace him? Who going to replace him? Teresa, you sat at this board and you gave orders to that director of that DO department to do training. He haven't done none since you gave that. Zero. I'd have talked to 30 teachers in the DL department and he's given none. Is he going to be reprimanded? Because when a teacher do something wrong, Figueroa put them in jail downstairs. Put him in jail, please.
I will apologize for my long-windedness, but I will say, before I come forward, I try to talk to people. I email people. I try and have meetings with people in charge of this. This is nothing I say here that I haven't said 10 times before. And if you want names of who I talked to about it, I'll give them to you. They ignore me.
And just a reminder, the agenda items relate to contracted services. And I saw your hand, Ms. Lindsay, and I see you got the mic, Mr. Sabecki, so I'm not ignoring you. I do want to reiterate, and I have to state this for the parents, and even thank you for that, Mr. Edwards, it's a both and. We have to have these contracted services. So we may not like it, but our kids, by law, have to receive these services. So I hear the community's angst. Last year, when I know Ms. Lindsay, this was something that was super important, and maybe we can come back and superintendent just do a presentation on if there've been an increase.
What are we doing looking forward?
If there's been an increase on the amount of hiring. I think the staffing is, again, we talked about it, is we can't not do it. So the question is, how do we minimize it and continue every year to chip away at it? So Mr. Sabecki and then Ms. Lindsay.
So a couple things. So let's go with this contracted service. Like I said, last 20 years we've been contracting out. If we're going to continue to contract out, to me, we're putting those positions on the back burner. We might post them on our website, but I asked months ago for the strategic plan from HR, what we're doing for recruitment. For all these hard to fill positions that we keep talking about. We can go across seas and bring 60 people back, but if there's 60 people leaving the district, what did we gain? Nothing. That's the problem. If we can continue to contract, that means we're not actively looking. Just posting them is not actively looking. Locally, I've been to some of the hiring events that our HR department's been at. Setting up a table with the fancy tablecloth that says Waukegan Public Schools, sitting there eating and hoping people come to our table, that's not recruitment. It's not. We need to know the strategic plan like we do all the other strategic plans in this district. If we continue to do this, we're not actively looking for these people. We have to go out and search for them. If we want the best here, we have to search for them, not just post it on our website. They look and everything's contracted, they ain't gonna come. We actively have to go out and search for these people, and we've asked for it. What's their strategic plan for HR? We can keep going and recruiting all these teachers like we keep saying. We could bring 60, 70, 100, 300 here. But if we keep losing that amount here, we're not gaining anything. And who suffers in the end? It's the students that suffer. My kid at Benny in 6th grade has had 5 different teachers this school year alone. And now we're online. But we keep sending people over to get the teachers to fill these hard to staff positions, but they're still not staffed year after year, but we keep sending. So what are we gaining? 0. And I've said it months ago, we need to start looking at these department heads that have been in these positions for a long time. We are administrative top heavy. If the things ain't changing and we ain't seeing growth, drastic growth, I ain't talking about 1-2 points, then those positions need to be looked at and they need to be replaced because obviously they ain't the right people for that position. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Becky. Ms. Lindsay.
I'm a bit confused because I believe last meeting Mr. Figueroa said that we had the opportunity to hire in social workers. I believe he said SLPs. I could be wrong on that. Nurses when we go to do international hire. And he has also stated that he believes when he goes to the Philippines, there's already 30 staff members. So I'm confused on a couple of things. If we've said that we're able to do those things internationally, why are we setting up contracts which each estimated cost is 80 grand, right? So that doesn't line up for me, so I'm having a hard time understanding why we're getting these contracts in place when we've had confirmation that we can hire these internationally. So that's my first question, if that could be answered, and then I have 2 more, maybe 3.
I don't know if I can answer that, just because I don't know the type of candidates that are attending the fairs that he goes to. So I don't know if we want to bring the answer back to the board superintendent or.
Yeah, I do know in my conversations with Mr. Figueroa, he's going to have an intense focus on nursing and social workers. That's really the main two streams that he's looking at there, social workers and nursing. However, we're looking at some of the certification of how that transfers here. But those were the two bodies. I know he may said other school psychologists, et cetera, are harder to attract. And so I don't know, somebody from the DL department want to talk about, I mean, I do know that you all are aware that he did heavy recruiting to fill vacancies in the DL department, but these other services surrounding these contracts, does somebody want to shed some light on that? I would think that this is just a safeguard in case we don't get these. That's what I'm thinking, that this is a safeguard in case he's not able to recruit in certain areas, because we do have to fulfill IEP meetings. But I don't want to speak for you. Does somebody want to state anything? We'll just pass the mic that way, can we please?
Can I piggyback on that thought? Not just that if it's a safeguard, but is the contract in totality, regardless of how many hours or how many times we utilize the service, or does that contract have flexibility that, hey, I may not need this SLP for, a whole, I might only need them for a week because the one that we got one and she's out for a week. So we're only paying for that week.
Okay, so we'll start with these contracts here. This was a lot of work between my department and Mr. Clary to get these contracts set up so that when we have a shortage or we have, say, a student come to the district with significant medical needs, which is the case with one, and we don't have anyone, and they can't go to school or they can't get their speech or OT services if we don't have that person. They do come to us. And sometimes they have candidates, sometimes they have a promise of candidates, right? So this is really was meant to be a proactive group of contract staff that we would have available if they do have say a speech path ready to go. We don't have to wait. I don't have to go down and talk to Joe, talk to HR, get permission from the superintendent to try to bring someone on, and after a week they're next door in Gurney or Zion. There is such a significant shortage, we don't have the luxury of waiting. And so we do have shortage. So as of now, the 5, Colleen Michaels is a separate, as of now, those are not, they do not have employees. We have to come to you, and this is part of wanting to be transparent. We need to come to you because it's over $25,000 if they are here for a certain amount of time. Okay, so I'm going to try to answer a few of the questions up there as we go along systematically. So that's why we have this many. There has been a practice, and another reason we want to be proactive and not reactionary of if a student has an IEP and they have somebody for us who can service them right away, we can bring them on, right? With the idea that we would get the contract done or we need to provide those services right away. I don't think the superintendent, or I don't speak for the superintendent or Mr. Clary or I are comfortable with just doing that, right? We have a lot of questions here. Makes sense. So that's one of the reasons we're doing this, to be proactive, again, in case we need that. Ms. Fabian, you are correct. At any time, we can, for the most part here and there, depending on the contract, we can release a contract employee. Say, I find that nurse, and we can hire them and bring them on, we would release that person. There are some little caveats in certain contracts. We give them a month out of courtesy, right? And some are immediate. So we do have that flexibility. As far as recruitment, I have directed my staff very clearly that they have to get out and make recruiting a priority and make minimum 2 contacts, whether that's at a university or a college fair or whatever that is. I can tell you right now that we have hired for district speech pass into contract. We have more interviews coming, and it's just April. Our goal was to get 12, so we're halfway there to make sure everybody's in person. Mr. Neeson has hired 1 this year, social worker for this year, and he's already hired 5 for next year. Do we have interest?
2 interviews on Thursday.
And 2 interviews on Thursday. Dr. Jenkins, our psych coordinator, has listed 4 district psychologists she has hired. We didn't have as great a need in OTPT, but so you don't see that. There's 1 district and 1 contract. We have fulfilled those. And again, if we get somebody to apply or we have somebody that we want to bring in, we prefer to do that. We have brought, I believe, in the last 2 or 3 years, 3 contract staff from contract to the district. We are in conversation with an OT right now and 2 to 3 speech pass who want to move from contract to district. There is no barrier. I believe Mr. Clary put something out. There is no barrier that we have with these companies to bring them back. They may have individual contracts with those companies. There's nothing we can do about it. That's not our business, right? That's between that contract employee and that contract company. Okay, so that's the status of that. I may be forgetting some of the questions, but basically these are proactive and hopefully trying to be transparent to say we are prepared to do what we need to do to serve our children, and also data which I've shared with the superintendent. It's not totally complete of how my department is recruiting. And we were asked about what they've gone to. So speech has gone to ISHA and ASHA, 2 ASHA virtual career fairs, and Marquette Career Fair, which I believe was quite successful, the Marquette, and I know they have an excellent program. I've hired staff from there. Mr. Neeson has gone to 2 career fairs or college fairs, correct? Ms. Jenkins has done a lot of what she's been doing is, what do you call it? We'll get to it. She's sent staff to NASP. She's been to ISPA. She's been to the Eastern Illinois University Career Fair. She's been to the ROE Career Fair. Like I said, there wasn't as great a need in OTPT, but Ms. Kathy Lee has worked on recruiting too, and she was instrumental in getting us set up with Handshake. We can go offline and talk about what that is, but it's a recruiting tool with universities. So we are not sitting down and doing nothing. I have told them these contracts, when I had to write the grant, it's blowing up and we can't continue to do it. However, our first priority is the children. So it's a priority in the department constantly to be doing this, and I've mentioned it through our DL admin meetings. I'm not directing questions, the president is, so I see Ms. Fabian, but.
Oh, I still had a couple.
Okay,
No, you're fine.
go ahead and finish, Ms. Lindsay.
So then with because you said we're essentially taking on 12 SLPs, so does that mean we don't have any more SLPs through Stepping Stones? That's been addressed?
So, sorry, that's not quite the issue. So we had to go out and use teletherapy. We were very reluctant to do that, but the world has changed, obviously, and one of the problems with speech is a lot of people want to stay home. They want to do that. I can't make them come here. So there are teletherapists who will, and they've done a great job, work with our students. We've had some even come in person to meet the teachers and the kids. But our goal is to get to 0 teletherapists, right? So we're halfway there. Some of those are stepping stones teletherapists, but we do have, I don't have the exact numbers right here in my hand or in my brain, but we do have stepping stones, or through the vendor management, we do have contracted SLPs here. I can tell you that 2 of the stepping stones are the ones we're pretty sure are coming over, and there's one, due to that new contract with this year's cap, she would lose money. So that's an issue. If we want to talk to HR, that's not my issue, and I'm not getting involved with that. But she's considering that.
Okay, and then, so if we have stepping stones, and based on a meeting we had last year, our contract with them, they would provide staffing services for hiring, billing, regulation of cost. et cetera, and it can include, medical staff, nurses, occupational therapists, physical therapists, SLPs, and other staff serving Waukegan students. Why are we adding on these additional contracts instead of going through a contract that we are paying quite a hefty amount toward?
Okay, that's a great question. So just a
Thank
couple.
you.
No, there's a couple things there that's important. We are paying stepping stones for services, yes. So it's a hefty amount, but we're not paying over that for the vendor management. So I just want to clarify that. And we might be talking the same thing, so that's fine. Second, I can tell you that there just aren't people there. We have evidence that multiple companies have been shopping the same person. That's not on the companies. That's the person not being real honest. So we had, I believe it was a speech path or maybe a social worker. We had 3 companies come to us with her. So there just aren't people there. And so I can't, in good conscience, not look at alternatives. And that's why we need to do this, right? So I forget, we have contract with, I think, Assured or something that's been vetted and all that. But so we are open to that. In addition, I just want to, through my work with Joe, really understanding this procurement process, it's really important that we do go out and look at those 3 or more when it's going to cost a significant amount of money. So that's a part of the procurement process now when we do contracts. And say, please help us that we got almost everybody and we have 1 speech path left. I might be able to have a choice of whatever amount of money difference between company A and B, and that might be negotiable. Right now, the market is not in the employer's favor, so that's not necessarily going to happen. But in the past, not here, I've been able to choose different staff because there were enough of that particular job.
Okay. And then one more question, and then I'll pause on this topic for the evening. Because Mr. Riddle said it, I believe Board President Ewing has said it. I want to say Mr. McBride because you were in the same meeting as talked about it, but maybe I'm not sure. Outcomes-based contracting, right? So when we have these contract services, my understanding is that they're not required to go to the SIT meetings at the schools. And that's a big component, right? Like, you need the whole team aware of everything that's going on if you're going to be a part of the team. But I'm not seeing the language in there, but I'm just curious as to why we're not, 1, including that, and then 2, talking about outcomes-based, right? If you are not doing the right amount of hours, or it's not done at a certain proficiency work, or the students aren't getting the services that they need from whomever we've contracted, there should be language in there to where we're not spending an exorbitant amount of money on this. So I'm curious, Superintendent, are we looking at outcomes-based contracting when we're going through these processes?
Yeah, so that was Mr. Riddle, because he went to that session, I believe.
I
Did
said
you say
Mr. Riddle,
I thought you
and
said
then
Mr.
Board President
Oh, I
Ewing
thought you
also
said
brought
Mr.
it up. I
McBride,
was in the
sorry.
same session, but I'm not sure if Mr. McBride had also brought it up, so I didn't want to leave him out.
As of now, I can say no, we're not we haven't looked at that. I'm not going to say we won't, but we have not looked at outcome-based contract. I haven't even looked at that. No, Ms. Lenzing, not as of right now. That is something I can look into, but at this point in time, no, we have not looked at that.
And I can answer the other part. We have had staff that, because of their performance, we have let go. We do not just keep, even if we're short 10, we're not keeping somebody who's not doing their job. And I think most of my admin have had to be on that side. So,
Ms. Fabian.
So another question of mine, and from my understanding, for example, a social worker, when they're hired in the district, needs to have a type 73, or a nurse has to have a special certification. And so when they're going through these outside companies, they don't have to have that particular certification. So my question is, when we're contracting from the outside and we see somebody that's doing a great job, what are we doing, or what are we planning to do to then eliminate that barrier so that they can be hired into the district? Because obviously we can't hire somebody in that doesn't have the proper certifications. But then what are we doing to coach that person to go back to school or to do whatever they have to do in order to get that certification? And then the second part of that is, have we, looked at the grant money that's coming in to, for that teaching pipeline, to see if that's an avenue that also we can work to expand, so that we're getting these people in, because some of them do want to work for Waukegan. They simply can't because of that barrier.
I don't know if that was a question. You're correct. We can't bring them on. We can't bring a social worker on without a Type 73 and a school social work license, PEL, to do IEP minutes. We could bring someone in to do counseling, MTSS, support, etc. We could do that. We haven't had a lot of those options.
To my knowledge, all the staff that we've brought in through the various contract agencies are fully certified. We have not brought anyone that is not.
Thank you.
That's not the
Thank you
So
for
my
saying
question
that.
isn't
That's
that.
not the question.
My question is, in order to be hired through a public school, you have to have an additional certification. So that's my question is, so for example, like, if you need to have a Type 73 in order to have that position and they don't have it, what are we doing? Or, if it's nursing and they have to have like specific coursework to be able to work in the school, to be able to maintain the protocols of what ISB requires for, vaccinations and all of that, are we doing anything to support
Example,
that?
we have, and I'm sorry, but just I want to make sure that they understand. I have friends who have bachelors in social work. They have a bachelor's in social work, but they don't have the school endorsement. So what Ms. Fabian's question is are we doing anything where that person, which I know they are because they are, working through the agency, but we can't actually hire them as staff. So it's a limitation, a barrier. Are we doing anything or providing any supports in order to eliminate those barriers is the question.
So we've provided some of that with teaching, mostly. We have not necessarily provided that through related services. Now, a contract company, and I've known them to do this, can put that expense into a staff member, but that becomes, right, they've invested in them, they're not going to want them to be released to work with us, right? If they pay $20,000 for whatever certification for their staff member to be elevated so that they can give us services, they're not going to release them. That's just, that would be bad business for them. So
Doing that with the contract agencies.
So I would say no, Ms. Fabian, if they're a contracted employee, we're not going to allow them to have access to our teacher grant, which we would pay for their certification, because they're not a District 60 employee. Correct. Those type of opportunities are solely for District 60 employees to get, extra certifications, or even their degrees in teaching if they're at the, associate degree level. So no, we have nothing in place for
Are we
that.
guiding them towards grants that are open? Because there are grants that aren't given directly to Waukegan Public Schools for Waukegan Public Schools staff. There's other grants out there through different universities. Are we guiding them towards that process? Is anybody saying, hey, actually, you have a bachelor's in social work, you really only need to take 2 more courses and this test to get this certification? Like, is there anybody guiding them in that process so then we can hire them?
So I can speak to that. We have counseled some of our agency individuals about getting emergency certifications. So there's a few emergency certifications out there. When I talk to the agency individuals about really coming on board and becoming part of our community, of our district, what it usually comes down to is salary. They're compensated so handsomely from these agencies. We can't compete with our union agreements. So a lot of times that's what it comes down to. But when that's not the issue, then they do look into, and we help guide them through those emergency certifications, and then they're given 3 years to get those certifications.
to the superintendent's point too, as well, with the teacher vacancy grant, if we have in-district employees that aspire to become social workers and counselors and everything else, we can definitely include that in the grant application to fund some of those certifications, but they would have to be internal employees, existing employees, to do that with the grant.
I saw your hand, Ms. Lensing, and then I'm going to ask us, for the sake of time, to kind of, if we can do final remarks or thoughts.
Of course, thank you for allowing me this moment. Just to touch base on that, are we just talking to them about salary? Or are we talking to them about the full benefit package, right? I want to make sure we're clarifying that, right? Because we say salary, that's just your yearly. But if you work here, you're earning toward a pension, etc. So when we're saying things, I want to make sure we're extremely clear. Because when you say salary, I'm hearing that whole of what we're not talking to them about. So is it salary or the full benefit package? Because not a lot of companies do pensions anymore. I highly doubt these contract companies are providing pensions, insurance, retirement benefits, the whole gamut.
That's a great question. And so when I'm talking to individuals, I'm absolutely telling them to look at the whole picture and to look at the longevity of their career, and not just their paycheck to paycheck, right? Because you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. But sometimes it's just not enough to sway them. But we keep trying.
Yeah, so items are here. I think we heard and I appreciate Dr. Bolas mentioning that the number one priority is recruitment, but at the end of the day, we have to provide these services, and as he mentioned, this is a proactive approach for us to be able to do that. It does cost money, and so we want to be cognizant of that. Go ahead, Ms. McBride, final comment.
Just one question. Most of your staffing agencies that you're dealing with, where are they from?
All over. Most of the reps are from around here or the Midwest, but some of these are national companies, and they have recruiters who do that. So they may, I think Sunbelt by the name is from Florida, but they have recruiters who are local that have that. I don't think we have any travel therapy groups. There are ones that say hire nurses, and they'll send them nationally if the people want to travel. But typically they are local recruiters working for a company, local or national.
So I guess to my point is, you're talking about bringing nurses in from Florida for staffing. You're trying to tell me that all the staffing agencies around here, you can't find a nurse in those staffing agencies? And some of the other areas of use that I see on here as well.
Correct. It's significantly short. It's a national shortage. I did link the nurse. The top one, I think, NEA Today talks about nurses. The other one talks about related services. So that talks about some of the data and some of the trends looking at these really important support positions and how we just don't have enough, right? Speech is estimated to have 40,000 vacancies nationally in the next 10 years. And that's not school vacancies, that's everybody competing, hospitals, social services, and schools. So it's a very serious issue. I'm hearing some chatter at the government level on supporting universities and getting things going, but it's a huge crisis in the health field.
Well, I said that, Dr. Bubbles, me being on the township board, we also staff too, because sometimes we can't find individuals in certain areas we need. But when we do bring staff in, they're there forever pretty much. And some of the same benefits I see that we have to pay with, sometimes they don't get retirement, but they stay there. And a lot of them are local people. And we get them in all areas. And I'm looking at some of these areas, especially counseling. I just can't believe that you can't go to these state agencies and find counselors. That's just hard for me to believe. Substance abuse counselors, and not only just counselors, therapists, occupational therapists. What I know what they do. I mean, it's hard. I mean, it seems to me that you shouldn't have to go across the country to find occupational therapists.
And my only reason for jumping in here, Dr. B, is because I had an individual reach out about my statistic last week about the teacher vacancies, and like you say, it's not just teachers, it's administrators, social workers, counselors. Illinois State Board of Education educator shortage report. It is a 68-page document that details in depth the struggles that we are facing. And the reason I talk about it as bluntly as I do is because, to your point, Mr. McBride, this was not a crisis. It was starting, but 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago, it was not felt the same. So yes, it seems unrealistic that we're having trouble filling and finding positions. And Ms. Gillen talked about how reputation plays a role, how income and financial support plays a role, how there is higher competition. My other board member, Ms. Gonzalez, talks about we expect people to have master's degrees and we want to pay them pennies. And so we're not only competing with district, to your point, but I sit on the board of a mental health organization. We had 100% staff turnover from 2020 to 2022. This is not made up. And I know you don't think so, but it is that dire. And the reason I put it in the language that I do, because I actually don't think we are panicking enough. I don't think we are taking it serious enough. We don't increase salaries by 22% just because we want to. I think it was the right thing to do. I think it should have been done a long time ago. I think our teachers and our staff deserved it. But we have to remain competitive, and these staffing agencies not looking at the full benefits, or people make the decisions that they need to for personal reasons, right? If I don't need insurance because I'm provided by a spouse, then it may make sense for me to stay with an agency. And each package is, but there are things that we can do from advocacy. ISB lays out some. We talk about encouraging people to get certified, build your own, grow your own. That's still a decade-long strategy. One thing that I will ask us to do is some of these things to really look at when we talk about equity. Does the credential, is it really required, right? If I have a bachelor's or a master's in social work, do I have to have the school endorsement to be a social worker in Waukegan Public Schools, right? And if we change that law, then that opens us up to an entire pool of individuals who will see increases, because I know what the nonprofit sector pays, right, in comparison to what we do. So those are why I talk about it as drastically as I do, because I'm on these calls, and it's not a Waukegan specific issue. And I want to pause there to let you finish your comment, but I wanted to say that, Mr. McBride, it's not just I can go down the street and I got 10 people. We have record low unemployment. If you want a job and you qualify, you not only can pick where you want, you have choices. And so who was that said it's not great for, was that you, Dr. B, that said it's not a great environment for the employer? It's not a great environment for the employer, and that's all around. So I think what we have to do is continue to stay active and continue, like we said, to chip away at these vacancies that we do have, making sure that they're continually posted. Ms. Hannah mentioned Indeed and some of these other platforms. You talked about Handshake. So let's continue to utilize all of those resources. But at the end of the day, we also have to be open for our kids. And so updates like you provided this evening, continue to talk about how you are chipping away at it. I think it reinforces board trusting that we know that it's a priority for you, and it reinforces confidence with the community that it's not something that sometimes is, if I don't hear it or I don't see it, then it's not happening. And while I may know that that's not true, I know sometimes is that perception becomes the reality. Mr. McBride, I want to give you the final comment because I interrupted you.
Well, Dr. Bubbles not saying that, you know, you're not expediting your work like you should. It's just that some of the areas of expertise that's using in your department that I was reading, say for space to substance abuse counselors. I mean, we have right there over on, I think, Greenleaf, what is it called?
NACASA.
NACASA, you know. And I know that, you know, NACASA, they probably, when they're getting their counselors, I'm sure they're probably not coming from out of town. They're probably local. And I know just some staff agencies around here that I know, like I said, we utilize for the township in all areas. And you know, some of the areas, I mean, anyway, let me put it like, I'm hoping you're reaching locally rather than sometime going out of state. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Right. Well, thank you.
And I'm just want to say that as the old person on the board, I'm used to seeing when contracts are brought forward that someone that represents the company comes to the meeting and talks about, but we never see that. We only go by what the administration is saying, and we would be able to ask these questions if they were present at the meeting. And because basically we still don't know anything more that we kind of did at first.
I'm just going to make a point of clarification on that because we have had some individuals come in, like CKLA did come in,
but that was
paper came in, so it happens. It's not consistent to your
Because
point.
there's not a rule, and I think so. We can talk about that, but as the board, I don't know what. Like, I didn't think that this would be as long a discussion as it was. So sometimes we make an agenda and we guess. So if there's ever a request to have someone present, when the age of Zoom, if that request is made with enough time to the superintendent and myself, we will work to coordinate it. Miss, I know you want to say something, Miss.
I just wanted to make a point of clarification that it's not just a state issue when we're looking at shortages of teachers, OT, PT. It's a national shortage. So even at the state level, the state has had to come up to Ms. Butler's point, emergency certifications to try to have more people be certified in order to fill these vacancies. So even when we're going nationally, we're still not seeing as many fruits to our labor because it is a national crisis. It's not just Waukegan or Illinois, it's everywhere in the USA. But also, just because we're on this topic real quick, it is National Occupational Therapist Month, so I just want to say, end on a happy note, because I know how hard they work, and it is stressful, but I know that you guys see the gains in the long run. So just want to end on a positive note, because we need them.
We do. Yeah, and just so community, my analytical mind is it's a national issue, and I want to tell you 4,100 vacancies in Illinois. So expound that out. Yeah, the national ones. So we talked about, I'm going to say items up to F, right? But yeah, so if there weren't any questions, bilingual therapies, H, renewal goal book toolkit, renewal of Embrace Education IEP writing, approval of IAASE, additional materials for Amplify, CKLL, Caminos, monolingual and dual language teachers K through 5.
On the next one.
Next one, item L, Brain Pop is supplemental resources for science, social studies, ELA, SLA, and ESL grades K through 8.
So I want to make a comment on that. I've used it. It's great. I love it. But we've asked in the past if we could see how often these things are utilized, because this is one that, teachers can log in and use every now and then. It's not something that is tied directly to a curriculum. This is, just an additional resource, which I think is great to have. But if it's not being utilized, then it's money ill spent. So again, when we see these kinds of contracts coming up, if we can just see utilization, some feedback on, like, from the teachers, how much they're using it, and if it's, if we're getting our bang for our buck, basically. Again, I like Brain Pop, but that doesn't mean that everybody does and that every teacher is using it.
So yes, 131,000. So before board action, can we bring back the report or include it with the recommended action?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yep, we can. No, we'll just bring it back. Just bring back the data for it.
It's not a renewal.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's not a renewal.
Sorry.
So we will have usage. It's used sporadically across about 9 of the 20 schools that will serve next year. So we don't have cohesive usage because some are just accessing the free components, right? While other schools put it in their SBB. And so we're making a concerted effort to minimize the number of supplemental additional pieces that we're providing. This was an ask of several elementary schools on their SBB. And so when we see 30% or more of our schools asking for a resource, then we start to look at how we can save money by providing it for everyone, and we'll be expanding it into the middle school. So we certainly can provide that, and we'll track it through Learn once it becomes something that we use as a paid subscription across 20 of our schools.
Go ahead, Ms. Lindsay.
Yeah.
So as a former teacher, I used Brain Pop in my classes. It's great, right? My kids are coming home, they're using it in their school as well. And as a parent, I'll also use the free version of it to explain some of the things that I personally don't feel was adequately addressed, mostly social issues and history around that. But we're getting better as a district with accurate history. So I'm really excited to see it come through as more of a accessible, a full access aspect for the district.
And why is it an estimated quote?
I think they're always worded that way, but you can see that's the exact number of the quote that's attached.
The 131,000?
Thank you. And then we got M honors level CTE courses at high school and tech campus. Ms. Lindsay.
I'm really excited for this as well because it is giving some acknowledgement to our CTE courses, right? If you haven't opened the attachment, it goes into a lot of information, commercial photography too, computer applications too, engineering and electronics too. And that's just at, our campus. And some of these courses bring industry recognized certifications that are embedded in the programming. As much as possible, if we have students that aren't college bound to become lawyers or doctors or things that require degrees and they're going into the trades, if we can preload them with skill sets and certifications, they're decreasing their debt as they go into the workforce, which is great. So to honor the amount of work that goes in to do this as an honors weighted class, I think is fabulous. So I'm just commending the team for putting this forward because I think it serves the students in multiple ways.
And I will say this is a push across all of Lake County. I go to the monthly tech campus meetings with other district level administrators, and this is something that districts all throughout the county are pushing because they're seeing their tech campus enrollments continue to increase. Ours is actually, next year we are estimated to have 444 students attend tech campus.
That's been the highest?
Yes, compared to, I think it's 140 or 50 more than we have this year. So the popularity of the tech campus and some of the courses that are offered there are becoming more and more prevalent across the county. And I know there's some comments made previously this evening about AP. Students are trending more toward tech campus and dual credit than they are AP. So the fact that we are making these courses honors level courses is going to just further attract students to engage in those trades and, like you said, Ms. Lensing, hopefully reduce their college tuition.
Thank you. Mrs. Fabian.
I just also want to give kudos to the team because this is also accessible to students with IEP, students at AOEC. So I think, the more that we can provide other pathways and opportunities, especially for our neurodivergent students, the better. So thank you for continuing to expand the program because we know that the reality is some of our kids don't want to go to a four-year college, and I don't blame them because my oldest is coming out with a lot of debt. So, if they can come out with less debt, with a certification, ready to learn, or ready to work, that's amazing. So again, thank you to the team to making sure that it's also accessible.
Does that mean that we have had an increase in our costs for the tech campus?
Tuition rates, they're trying to maintain them. Excuse me, they're trying to maintain flat rates for partner districts. However, with the huge number of students that are starting to attend, they're actually talking about expanding,
Right.
building onto the tech campus.
Right.
Because it's getting so heavily
Right.
inundated with students. The tuition rates will ultimately probably increase. So yes, with more students, we're going to see an increased cost for tuition.
And that's okay.
Yep.
I just like to see the cost. I
Yeah.
know what it used to be.
Yeah.
I'd like to see what it is now.
Okay, I can get it for you.
All right. To continue, we have Waukegan High School and AOC Edmonton renewal. Ms. Lindsay.
This is a fast question on my part. So I'm not disparaging a credit recovery opportunity. I think it's great that our students have it. I want to make sure that they are still learning the information and that they are growing academically through this. And it's not just a checkbox, okay, I did surface level work and now I have the credit and I can move on. Because one of the things that we need to make sure we are doing is that our students are leaving our district as problem solvers, critical thinkers, and with the appropriate background information or knowledge to be successful as they become adults. So I just want to make sure that we're looking at this with that lens to make sure that they're coming out with the appropriate skill sets.
Okay, noted.
So
There's a question or just a comment?
yeah, the first part was, is it doing that?
I don't know. I mean, I can,
Okay.
we can do an audit of the curriculum and find out. I know we have
Dr.
several.
No, Miss Patty can answer it. She's,
Okay.
you want to come up?
Thank you, Miss Patty.
I know you couldn't see behind you.
Yeah, sorry. I'm much shorter. Good evening, everybody. Some of the steps that we have taken to align the Edmentum courseware with our Waukegan High School curriculum has been really, really in-depth. Our teaching and learning partnership with Jennifer Rice-La Sanchez, the coordinators under her, have done a significant amount of work to make sure that what is provided in terms of standards, content, assessments, and performance type tasks are in alignment with the same type of expectations that a student who goes through the traditional course would be expected to do. Some of the integrity of the program, especially at AOEC, Ms. Carter has put in a lot of stopgaps to make sure that there's integrity to the assessment portions, that students aren't Googling answers, aren't figuring out ways to do those kinds of things as kids do. And so we've also revised our writing intensive components of our Edmentum coursework. And so in the past, students hadn't had to do as much writing prior, but this year we spent a lot of time working with teaching and learning and Ms. Carter, providing professional development to the teachers at AOEC on how to teach writing in an alternative setting, alternative curriculum. And so we have definitely worked intentionally to make sure that the rigor of the course is supporting the same expectations for student learning.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I can just add, as a parent, you also get reports to see where your children are and how much they've done, and things are locked, so they can't even move on until they've mastered the content. And I can only speak for AOEC. They do allow that opportunity for those kids that need something tangible to print out and write out notes and do all of that. So that for those of us that are old school or just we know that writing makes it stick more. For that, they do allow them to do that, and then they do have teachers in the room that are also able to support if they are lost in the content or have questions that they need clarified.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, item O, ombudsman renewal.
That's what I want to see. How much is this contract?
I do have a question on it, Brandon, when you get done.
Per slot.
Ombudsman, go ahead, Mr. McBride.
What is the no, I don't want that. I want to know so is this 216,000
For next school year.
for next school year?
Children. Yep.
And 7,000
Is it just a 1-year contract?
No, it's all
Dr.
3
Bowles?
years.
This is the special ed ombudsman program.
You got two.
Huh?
Yes, Dr. Bogue. It's outplacement, right? It could be for any.
Because
Is this yours?
We have two ombudsmen.
This is the renewal. You are tall. This is the renewal for, good evening, everyone, board members, presidents, and superintendent. This is the renewal for ombudsman, not for
The
DL
DL
department.
component, yeah.
Not the DL?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So where does they, when do we get their contract? Or their renewal? Not the special ed, the DL. Because we have ombudsman plus. Ombudsman plus, yeah.
So
Where
is that contract on here? I didn't see that this time. No, it's not on this agenda. So if it's coming, we will bring it back at another time.
Yeah, because yeah, okay. That's a lot, ombudsman, and you see they're steadily going up and up and up. And we need to see some data that is, that's showing that the students that we have placed over there have completed their time with ombudsman and the results. I mean, we're just approving these renewals, but how, where's the data that says that our students have achieved what they need to achieve with these agencies? And I'm going to, I think I said this before, instead of us taking and approving multi-year contract with these people, let us see the data. Do a 1 year so that we can determine if these services are working for the kids.
Oscar, is there a reason why you did a multi-year contract? I know there's a number of reasons that play into this. I just want to
Sure.
hear your thinking.
No, that's a fair question. Thank you so much for asking that. I'm sorry?
Yeah, I'm trying to wait for that answer.
I thought there was a
that you
question.
gave.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I answer all the questions I can. But there's not a one single answer why we have a 3-year contract. However, I think it would be in the best interest of the district to always have those 3 years gap. Although we have had a 50% reduction of students going to ombudsman, and we're very, very happy to know. I'm very pleased with the collaboration of we've been having with not only some board members that have been a part of our board reprimands, and also the administrators that have been part of that, and along with the families. I'm very pleased with the direction we're heading. I think it's still in the best interest of the district to continue on this 3-year track, so that when we have all the foundational work done for our students, this will be just a good option, and maybe we could look at, according to the data, it's only been a year, a little over a year that I've been here. We could look at more of a clear data with new systems in place that would best support our students in the long run.
Okay, and just to piggyback onto that, okay, I visited ombudsman, okay, and whenever I go over there, there's only maybe 3 students in the building, and that's on any given day, and so we're paying for slots that no student is in.
We're going to get clarification on that. I want to go to Ms. Fabian, and then I got a question which I'm looking at you, Ms. Polk.
You said you
That
wanted to
was
do what?
Get
that
clarity.
was my question is typically, and you touched on this, that the number is reducing as far as how many students are in. Typically, how many students are using the service? And I know all 30 are not using it at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine. But are you picking 30 because that's what's been typically used through the years? And then if we don't use the 30 slots, we're not paying for that $7,000. We only use 15. We're paying, half the cost. Is that within
So-
the contract, that flexibility?
Yeah. So we right now, for the past couple of years, we have used, last year we had 30 students there. We filled up all the seats, all the chairs. This particular year, we only have 13. And that is because I think of the work that we've been doing in collaboration with other people. And we've been very intentional on making sure that we do the right work with that is in the best interest of the students. I don't know if that's the right question. I want to be very careful in me explaining this because, yes, that is true. To answer the shorter end of the question is, yes, it's true. We're paying for 30, whether we use them or don't use them. That's the answer to the question. Is that wise? To be at this point, I still think it is right now because we're still building out other systems of support to make sure, because we don't know what's going to happen in the upcoming years. I'd like to entertain that as we build out our foundational work that we're trying to do at the moment. So later on, I do want to make sure once I see more consistent in what we're doing, then I'm able to say, okay, I think we don't need all 30. I think all we need is 15 or just 10 seats.
For the next, because you're doing 3 years
Yeah.
at 30.
Yeah.
So, to Ms. Hannah's point, if you're seeing that what you're doing is working, and we're hopeful that it continues to work,
Yeah, me too.
why couldn't we get a quote for 15?
Right.
And then, if we need more
Yeah,
slots,
we
entertain adding? Is there a discounted rate? Like, do they only sell them at
30.
like we sell T-shirts, right, in the bundles of 36? I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there a reason or a rationale that we couldn't look at half the number of seats and then propose adding should we need them, so that we're not being wasteful in the event we don't use those seats?
Yeah. Again, this is 1 year into this, and from my understanding, according to get to where we're at, I want to make sure that I don't set up also the district for a big, now we have to pay more money because we thought we were doing so good for 15 chairs, and now I don't want to put ourselves in that position just yet. I don't think it's in the best interest of the district at this point to make that shift because of the history that I saw.
But would it be a cost savings?
It would, yeah, absolutely it would. No, I'm not saying it's not. I agree with you. I think it's really smart just if we're not going to use all the seats, obviously. But right now, I think things are a little bit too early for me, and maybe I'm just not thinking wise. But I don't know. I don't think we're at that point yet to reduce the numbers because we just started putting these systems in place.
So, Ms. Lindsay.
So here's kind of how I'm rationalizing this, and you can help me out, right? So the supports that you and your team are putting in place look to be working this year, right? Which is great. We love to see it, and that's the trend that we want to hope for. But from what I'm seeing, we don't have enough data to show that this is going to be a consistent trajectory. From some of the conversations I've been privileged to be a part of, I can see that there can be something that happens that we can't plan for to increase the behaviors to escalate in these schools, and to not have a spot prepared for that. If we keep talking about preparation, you're saying that we would be at a financial disadvantage because we would have to pay more for a slot because we didn't get it in a bundled price, or so I guess that's the piece. Is that
Yes.
okay?
I'm concerned about that.
Yeah,
About having to pay more if we don't have these 30 slots ready to go.
Okay.
I'm good.
I just
if
have
I may.
a question or a comment. And this may be a takeaway. I know this will be my question for you, Director Dupuy. Did we talk about the possibility, like with Ombudsman, if we don't use the funds or if we can do quarterly billing? They've been a good partner for
Yes,
Waukegan
for
Public
a
Schools for a
long
number of
time.
years. And if we're not on the clock, because two things, right? There's the technical. The technical is, I just want a termination clause, right? So if we approve for 3 years, but we can reduce in year 2, then we probably don't have to have that conversation. But my experience with Ombudsman is typically that they have been a good partner to the
Yes,
district.
very.
And if we share the concerns, is that, hey, we're doing these different things. What opportunities? And that's what I was going to ask, but he answered it, Ms. Polk. It was, are we paying, towards as we go, or in one lump sum?
Yeah,
So
we're
it can can be a takeaway, and the only reason I'm doing that is because I said it would be a short meeting. It's already 8:16, and we still got to get to operations. And if there are those concerns, maybe just and Superintendent, with your guidance, is can we talk to them about what that is, right?
Sure, and they'll be
Yeah.
open to that.
And so can I ask that we table this so that we can go back and ask some of those very specific questions? And I think we could have added more light around emergency placements and just other things, but we'll bring that back. So let's just table this. Can this hold till May?
Till May?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this won't be coming back next Tuesday. Just give us more time to work with this, and we'll bring back for the board.
And I think so. Again, for school year 24-25, if 30 is the recommendation, and we did 30 this year, and that's traditionally what we've done, I'm not opposed to it, and I'll be willing to support it. But Ms. Hannah, Ms. Fabian, others on the board have raised good points. And again, me knowing Ombudsman, they've been good partners. They understand what we're doing and the financial constraints. And I get both. Ms. Polk doesn't want a budget surprise, right? If we budget for 15 and we go up by 15, and vice versa, if we have that money in the budget to put somewhere else, we also don't. I mean, so that's the gamble, right? I guess what you said. I would rather reserve it and then not use it. I don't want to just give them money for not providing services. So that's what I'm looking at, is if there's a way, if we say we're going to plan for 30, fine, but at what point are they charging us or billing us quarterly? Are they billing us annually? Like, what does that look like? And if they're open to that conversation.
And can we get the data of our students that that for the last few years?
And we say data.
Ombudsman.
What specific questions are we looking for? So that way when they come
I'm
back.
looking for the number of students.
Number of students.
That has went to Ombudsman.
Okay.
Completed Ombudsman.
Graduated.
Yes, and that's all I need.
So those are the
That's
two
all I'm
things I
looking
want to
for.
make sure that they come. I just want to make sure they
I'm
answer your
looking
question.
for the-
I don't want them to spend 50 minutes or on the presentation, and at the end it does not answer what you're looking for.
I'm looking for the number of students, in the past.
From 2020, I think that should be fine. Can we?
Yeah, and if they've completed the program, and if they were seniors, did we graduate them, what have you? That information.
Yep. Mr. McBride, final comment on this topic.
Mr. Dupuy, I heard you said you only been a year dealing with Ombudsman program. Me and Miss Hannah been around forever watching. Matter of fact, Ombudsman even wouldn't have been here if we wouldn't have been to a conference
That's
and
right.
seen what they was doing
That's
in St.
right.
Louis.
We brought that.
And prior
That's
to
right.
the time that we had the one on Sunset, we got another one now over on Green Bay Road.
right.
And that is because of the fact of what's been going on in our school buildings. And as you said earlier, me and Ms. Hannah have sat with you doing disciplines, expulsions and whatnot, and we didn't have the Ombudsman. What would we have done with those kids that had some of the issues? And so, therefore, as far as I'm concerned, you said you're looking ahead. I would say things ain't got any better. That's the bottom line to it. And we know that because we hear when the taxpayers come up here and talk about some of the behavior that's going on in the schools.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, the ombudsman came right on time, because ISB 100 said do what? Come up with all alternatives, whatever you can, to keep them, putting them out in the street. So I just want to keep mindful, board, that at some point, our troubles ain't got any better as far as discipline in our schools. So we're going to have some alternatives when it's all said and done. So just think about that when we start talking about the money. What's more important, the humanity of our kids or a dollar? So therefore, because at some point it ain't getting no better. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we got item P, approval purchase STEM materials. Q, faith law curriculum. R, renewal of Power School for 24-25. T, approval of renewal of partnership with Network for College Success. Approval of to purchase STEM materials.
That's the second one. Are they different?
They are different, yep.
Okay.
Virtual Advanced Placement Teacher Institute Professional Development Request. VMS Middle School. That's what MS stands for, is abbreviated for.
Yep.
AMLE Leadership Conference. The individuals are listed. W, renewal of HAPARA, HAPA, HAPARA. X, renewal of Remind. Renewal of yearly Microsoft Office and server licensing. Z, purchase of summer reading supplementary support materials for EL students. AA, purchase of ESL materials for Brookside campus. BB, purchase of ESL materials for Washington campus. CC, renewal of FileWave. Now we have the presentations. Is the board?
All right, I'd like to call up Mr. Berry and Ms. Schaefer is in the audience. She was here. To present on the Lewis Middle School International Field Trip.
Dr.
Were
Knott,
there
can
questions?
Can you hold 1 minute?
Did you guys want the presentation?
I want to make a comment,
Go
but
ahead.
that's up to the board if they want the presentation.
That's what I'm asking. So from a presentation standpoint, the item is attached. Did anybody have a specific, did you need the presentation, or do you want to go ahead and ask a specific question, Ms. Ms. Lindsay?
I'm good.
We're good. We're not going to present. Just we'll answer the board's questions. Ms. Schaefer.
Okay. I just want to say I am a proponent of international travel. I was a recipient of international travel through Waukegan Public Schools through the College Study Program under Mr. Johansson. And it impacted me in so many ways that I kept traveling, and I still plan to travel. And I think our students need as many opportunities as possible to go out and see the world. I tell every college-bound student afterward, go see the world. Come back. I want you to come back, but go see, right? Because you need that perspective. You need to experience these different things. And to see this at a middle school level, I'm quite jealous. I'm very excited. And I'm quite jealous. And I trust that the team is putting safety as the #1 priority as we do this. And then the educational aspect, right? And the growth aspect is like second, third place. But safety is always #1, which I trust that you guys are doing that. But I'm just very excited to see this opportunity for our students here.
Ms. Fabian?
First, I want to say great pick with Costa Rica. That's my father's origin. But I also see that it's coming up in June, and I see the Sources fundraising efforts. So I'm hoping that they have been fundraising all year, because that's a hefty, price tag for students. And if so, could you let us clarify that? Like, so each student is fundraising in order to pay the cost?
Can I introduce Karen Cano? She's our current instructional coach for dual language students, and a teacher last year, and this is her now second trip. And you'll notice in the presentation we are pre-asking for the following year to give kids more time. And she'll speak to kind of the preparations they've been doing.
Hi, thank you so much. I've been speaking with the families and the parents. So far, the families that we have been through their own efforts been fundraising. Each student gets their own fundraising page, kind of like a GoFundMe, and they share it out on social media to their friends, families. I know that students have told me we share it out for birthdays or on the holidays so that people can donate directly to their account, and none of it is taken out. It goes directly to fund their trip. So those are some of the things that they've been working on. And I was just looking at the accounts earlier today, and so most of the kids' trips are already paid for. I think there's one that has a small balance. Now that I think about it, actually mine has a bigger balance than everybody's, so I have to finish paying mine. But yeah, so for this year's, that's already been in the process. We started promoting it since August so that kids would have a longer time span, and then we started promoting next year's for the same reason, because then the monthly payments are a little bit smaller, more affordable, so that the families can start in the summer. And so I'm hoping that pending board approval, we can start doing our own fundraisers within the school. I just feel more comfortable being able to promote it once we have everything approved, and yeah.
Okay.
If anybody drops out, I'll join.
I have a question.
Ms. Fabian and then Ms. Gonzalez.
No.
I'm just saying, if any chaperone drops out, I'm.
Yeah, right? Seriously.
Ms. Hannah and then Ms. Gonzalez. I'm sorry.
I'm just wondering how diverse of a crowd or of a student numbers do you have?
So we're currently in smallish trips, trying to build up more and more people coming, but diverse. How you're asking? There are boys and girls going, all different ethnicities.
Ethnicities, all different.
I think they're all students of color, actually, for Costa Rica.
So we are pulling from all
African American students too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a relatively small group right now.
What's that?
It's open to the entire school.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I already know that. I'm just wondering in terms of the specific trip, will African American students be included in this
Yes.
as well?
Some went to Panama last year, and then we have kids on the list of all ethnicities going this year again to Costa Rica.
Good.
Thank you guys, and I also echo the support, because I think traveling is really beneficial for the students. I consistently bring this up, not to undermine the efforts of the traveling accommodations, but I do think it is important to come up with an opportunity for students that are undocumented, just so that they don't feel excluded when they see other students interested in international travel. I know that there's some trips that happen throughout the year, so maybe, I'm not privy to the one that happens at Lewis, but I would just keep that in mind, because that's some of the first encounters that they have with their status.
Thank you.
Thank you, and
Any other
thank you for those
questions?
efforts.
Thank you.
The school
Thank you,
improvement
Louis.
plans are there. They're lengthy. I know we have questions. It is also 8:30. Yeah, if you guys will take your time to go through them and get those questions into the superintendent, we can make sure that those are answered and provide.
Can I make one comment on that, Board
Yeah,
President?
for sure.
We do need the board to please look at those and review those, because we do need an actual board approval of those next week. So even though they're a presentation, we will put them on consent for next week for approval. It's part of our annual requirement that we have to get those board approved. So please look at them. If you have any questions, please let us know. We'd be happy to answer any questions you have on them. The presentation kind of outlines the process that we go through, what a school improvement plan is, how we monitor them, how we work with budget to bring those goals to life, et cetera. So it's all
Yeah,
there.
and that's what this is, but it's not the actual school's plan, right?
There's a
Because-
link in there that has access. There's a folder that you can access every individual school improvement plan there.
Okay, and that's for next school year, right?
These are the 24, 25, yeah, sorry.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
because we're getting ready to do the
Sorry,
budget,
yes.
so, yeah.
So please, if you have any questions, let us know. We'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thanks.
Thank you. With that, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Hannah, second by Ms. Gonzalez. All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. We adjourn. 5-minute bathroom break. the 3:40. 8:40. I'd like to call to order the April 16, 2024 Waukegan Public Schools Operational Service Committee meeting. If I can have a roll call, please.
Ms. Gonzalez.
Here.
Mr. Riddle. Mr. McBride. Ms. Hannah.
Yes.
Ms. Lunsing.
Here.
Ms. Fabian.
Present.
President Ewing.
Here. And Ms. McBride is here as well. Only board member not present is Mr. Riddle, who had a prior conflict. We have 3A approval of meeting minutes for March 19, 2024 OSC meeting.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Hannah, second by Ms. Lindsay. Any comments, questions, corrections to the minutes?
I was not present, so I'll pass.
All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. One pass. All right, so we have, these are just information items. I know that there was some concern or questions that came up last week. I do also want to restate that there's been under reports, a wraparound center report that's been submitted each week, or at least monthly. But at this time, if we want to just provide an update, I know the board received the email, but maybe for the community.
Yes, good evening, board members, staff, community, superintendent. I'm going to ask Ms. Dotson to come up and provide this most exciting recent update regarding the Wraparound Center.
Hello and good evening, everyone. I'm Bridget Dotson, Director of Wraparound Center. So the most recent, and to quote Deputy Moulton, the exciting part is that both of the subawards, i.e. those service providers that will be in place at the Wraparound Center providing those direct therapeutic services, have been approved by ICEJA. In the presentation, there is a timeline. We received the first approval on April 5th or 6th. It was a Friday. The second one was last Tuesday, April 9th.
Can you go to the next slide, please?
Mr. White, thank you. So it's the last couple of bullets on there. So that is exciting. We have been waiting, as President Ewing has stated, that we've had some delays, and that was due to the diligent process and rigorous process with ICEJA in reviewing said proposals from those two subawards. And so again, that communication began in January up until last week when we received the last approval. Yes, ma'am.
One question. Okay, the Wraparound Center is going to be for students, right?
Students and family and community, yes.
So, okay. No, I was just wondering why the tentative opening is at the end of May and school will be out.
It's tentative, so it might be prior to the school year, but the Wraparound Center will operate 12 months, so throughout the summer as well. And right now, go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. Finish your thought.
So what we're doing now that we have the approvals, we are now in the process with legal and with those service agencies and working on the approved, and we're bringing it to the attention of the board next week and asking or requesting a recommendation so that we can move forward with approving the agreements that we currently have.
Okay, and one thing that I have a big concern about, and that is the actual building itself. And I know that the building is still under major construction, right? And I just want to know how that is going to impact what you're doing at the Wraparound Center. Because it's major, and I know for a fact it's major construction.
So
Okay,
Mr. Moulton can respond to that, but I just want to highlight that we'll also have summer school. And so kids will be in district all the way up until early July. And so we will be able to still service students, but we would even still continue to service them even though they're not in school if there are services identified and are needed. Mr. Moulton, I'll turn it over to you.
Wait,
so you
wait.
can,
To piggyback on that, the vaccinations that that oftentimes our students are on that exclusion list. Are we going to be, hopefully, we're going to be having that service at the wraparound center as well?
So not vaccinations at the wraparound. However, Dr. Avery and Adrena Dobbs, our coordinator of nursing, the three of us met in person, and she's better suited. That's more her scope of work. And so there's plans and arrangements for that. So yes, that connection was made a couple of months ago.
so we will have pull-up
To
mobiles,
support, yes.
et cetera, for vaccination opportunities and different providers that help support the work in District 60.
Yeah, because if we could just goal ourselves to get everybody so that there's no exclusions next school year.
So, and so we do offer a lot of opportunities, but as students, it's also the parents that need to support us in this effort. So we want to ensure all of our parents that are watching our meeting today to please get your appointments as early as possible so that we can ensure that all students are vaccinated in District 60. Mr. Moulton, can you please answer the building question?
Yes, thank you. So if the board recalls, we originally intended to we were hopeful to open the wraparound center before this time, but we've done our due diligence. But you are correct. There's going to be other work happening in the building. There'll be a dedicated access point to the wraparound center, which has been completed in order to facilitate services, and including parking on the surface lot at the space so the individuals going to the wraparound center can easily navigate. But a dedicated access point that has been built out currently so they can access the space and not have to go through a construction area to get those services.
All right.
Thank you. I'm gonna go to Ms. Briscoe, then I'll start Ms. Lindsay and Ms. Fabian in that order.
I just had a question. A safe place is, what services, I'm on the board at a safe place, what services are a safe place going to provide there?
So a safe place, particularly domestic violence, sexual abuse. That's more so their primary
So
scope.
are counselors then going to be at a wraparound
Yes.
center
Yes.
from a safe place?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Lindsay?
So I have 3 questions, and Mr. Moulton, don't go too far. Oh, no, you have a mic. So I think maybe just to expand on Miss Hannah's question about the construction, my concern is just noise. I've worked in learning centers where the floor above us was doing construction, and that noise was an impact to the instruction that we were providing, or at least some of our parents felt that way or had that perspective. So are we being proactive on planning for that, should that be the case?
Yeah, so the goal with this is to minimize disruption as best as possible, similar to the construction work we do during the year in the school setting. We know that as active services are being provided, like hammer drilling and things like that, the floor above can't occur. So Ms. Dotson and her team will be at the wraparound center. We have a relationship, obviously, at this point with the contractor. So as we start to build out the schedule for people getting services, we're going to work around that. But we also have the contractors working very early in the morning prior to when the wraparound center will be open. So we'll schedule so that those things happen when the wraparound center is not open.
I love that we're being proactive about it. I just have to give kudos because I feel like I'm constantly saying, let's be proactive, let's be proactive. So I just want to recognize it when it's happening. The other question that I had, because I forgot the third one and I don't want to belabor the point, when we are officially opening the wraparound center, where is the first place people can find that information? So if they're looking and constantly checking, waiting for the service to be available to the community, where are they going to first see that information so that they know they can start making appointments if needed?
So a communication plan in terms of informing our community, informing our families and our students is underway. And so prior to that happening, that will be rolled out in whatever manner, but that is the thing, because they need to be connected to in order. So that communication plan is underway.
Okay.
And we will be very transparent and vocal and communicative with all of our stakeholders. So again, much like the needs assessment, much like the RFP process, you know, we were on all of our platforms. So that is underway.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Ms. Fabian.
You touched on what I wanted to ask, is that communication plan, but also ensuring that we're not just using social media, because that is part of the need, that some of our families don't have access always.
exactly.
So just if we, you know, we're being mindful that we have it in visible places and places that our families constantly visit, you know. And then the other thing, kudos, like for me, open when you need to open, because just because the school year ends, the family's needs don't end,
Right.
right? So I'm happy to see it open. It's something, I know I told you that I think it's great that we'll have something available for the community to come out and receive the services. So thank you for that. And then I can send Ms. Hannah the vaccination clinics that we are hosting in the district. Just, I know I don't want to hold up so much time, but parents should have received an email about those as well. They're
Sorry.
coming up on the 23rd and 24th.
Sorry, I remembered my third question, if that's okay. So I know there was a lot of concern around having certain services at the location, like food trucks and that sort of stuff was a concern. So are we having the vaccinations pull up in front of the wraparound center?
No.
Or that's what I want to clarify. That's just going to be other locations around the community
Yes.
that they can access those services through. It's not going to be directly tied to that location,
No.
2014.
No,
Perfect.
we are working very diligently to continue to maintain those guidelines, whether it's ICESA, whether it's the city. So no. we're
I
not
just
gonna
wanted
do
to make
that.
sure it was nice and clear so someone doesn't come
Absolutely.
at us sideways. So
No,
I
we're not
appreciate
doing that.
Thank you.
We also know that we get better traction when they're located at the children's schools.
Yes.
There's just more of a connection, so we really try to place them there. Thank you, Ms. Dodson.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, let me get the agenda back up. So we got revised furniture purchase, that's listed there under B. Item C, the updated impact fee schedule. D, tax extension for tax year 2023. I know this was one that you had a question about, Ms. Lindsay.
Not me
Original-
personally?
Mhm.
Yeah, can we just have the statement of what's going on with this just so that it's on the YouTubes for the communities? Just, this has been a very hot topic, so I don't want to just say, okay, let's go ahead and present that. Thank you, Ms. Polk.
Board President, Board Member, Superintendent, and Community. At the request of the board, when we came before you with the tax levy, we went up to the 5%. And your desire was that we would keep the taxes level. And I consulted with the superintendent. She agreed. We kept the taxes level. It created some angst in us because we showed you there that we lost $2 million, which is going to be $2 million moving forward, right? Because we lost that tax base. But it was the desire of the board that we keep them level, and we did.
So someone go get Steve and tell him that we
Yeah,
did
where's
not raise
Steve?
taxes.
Speed dial.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Polk. And again, when we talk about angst, at the end of the day, it's investment in our students. And so what Ms. Polk is reiterating is that by keeping taxes level, right, there are projects that we're asking for that we may have to put off. There are decisions that we have to make. But I think the board also mentioned is where else from as we go into this budget season, I'll give that, I don't know, is it a preamble? Is that things may look tighter than they have been traditionally tougher decisions may have to be made. One of the things that Ms. Hannah put on the table, right, is, and we hear from the community, is around the travel to conferences. In years where we have it and we want to make those investments, I'm all for it. I would encourage our directors, as they're building out those budgets, to be very, very thoughtful about what opportunities they're looking to take advantage of, and look at other ways in order for us to make sure that we are prioritizing the needs of our students, but also keeping in mind, as we even heard this evening, some of the concerns that are shared by those who and I want to call it taxpayers, because we shouldn't just look at it as taxpayers, but the community overall, as we look to make important investments in our students. So, item E, Washington campus retaining wall and exterior concrete work. That information is listed there. F, AOEC window replacement.
I got one.
Oh God, I didn't move quick enough. Go ahead, Ms. Hannah.
No, but it don't have anything to do with this. I know.
Go ahead, Ms. Hannah.
I only got one. The roof over at Brookside. Okay, and that's, is it being worked on while the students are in there?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
There's no disruption to the students?
No disruption. So when we originally brought that project forward, we had a long schedule that included end of spring and early fall, early to mid-fall. It is a large scope, so the work has started there. It started last month.
Right, I know. Yeah, I've been watching it.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to say, go over there and say, can I come up there and look? But
Yeah, it was a larger project than we can do.
Don't fall through the roof, Ms. Hannah.
Look, you don't have to worry about workman's comp.
Yeah, it was a little larger project than we can do in a 10-week summer, so that work has started.
Yeah,
Yes.
when will it be completed by the opening of school year?
So it will be completed in mid-fall. The original schedule we put out had us going through November. However, the bulk of the work will be taking place in the summer when we return to school. We're going to do it to where it won't impact occupancy, but it will not be 100% complete. There will still be some items that remain, but it won't impact occupancy.
Did you all change those windows at Brookside in the gym?
Yes, Mr. Nickerson is here. Those windows are in the scope of the work.
Okay.
At the top of the gym.
I don't have any more questions.
Yeah.
The reports have been Ms. Lindsay. No, go ahead.
So help me out with this one for the window replacement. Can we just give a quick recap as to why we're replacing the windows at AOAC?
Yes, they're old.
They're old.
No,
A lot of stuff in this district is old.
I apologize. I couldn't resist. The windows and frames have deteriorated. This is something that Ms. Carter has expressed over time. They are in a condition right now where they're due for replacement, and it is a safety item as well for the occupancy of the building. So that is why. And as Mr. Ewing is aware, being on the Capital Improvement Committee, there are a lot of items that we've held off on over the years. But the state of the windows at AOEC at this point, we are utilizing a facility. They do need to be replaced, so we're going to continue occupying that.
Did we get any grants? I mean, come on, there's so many the grants for the windows and the green and you know all of that stuff. We didn't get no grants for windows.
Not at this time. We have applied for window grants recently. We did bring a grant proposal in front of the board that you all did approve for window replacement at the high school campuses, but it was very competitive nationwide, and unfortunately we did not receive it. So we are taking advantage of grant opportunities. However, due to the condition of the windows at AOEC, we feel grant or not, it's important to proceed.
Another way that you all can help, right? Kudos to Ms. Polk and Deputy Moten, as well as, and I'm sorry if I'm missing anybody, but I also want to call out our Mr. Clary, right, and advocating for bills is because a lot of times not only are our schools old, but cities are old and stuff is falling apart. And so when we go in, we have to ask the state to allocate money, and sometimes they're not prioritizing schools. So I appreciate the efforts that we've made in order to make sure that when they are doing capital improvement dollars and grants, that they are including schools and aging school facilities like Waukegan. So I know that's been things that we've gone in the past. Again, as we talk about our budget, the state also is having their budget concerns, and so we want to be making sure that we are advocating, and so that they know what our community's priorities are, and it has to be educating our students and doing it in a healthy environment. So continue to work with your legislators, make sure that they know what our concerns are and our funding priorities are, so we can make sure that we keep getting those opportunities, as it will be a much more competitive process moving forward in this next fiscal climate and budget.
And I have a witness slip email link that I'm going to be sending people, okay, for our legislators, and I will be forwarding it to you guys. And all you guys got to do is just kind of maybe type something and then click the button, and our voices are going to be being heard.
All right, and I got one final comment because I promised that I would mention it. The right to read, that film that was shown through the district, Ms. Anna.
Yes.
The NAACP is showing the film on Monday at 6 p.m. I'm gonna double check that. No, 7:30. And that's going to be right downtown at the College of Lake County.
Good.
I'll forward the flyer to the superintendent, but it's open to the public for individuals that would like to come and see it. And it is literacy as a right for education. So thank you, Ms. Hannah, for your work with the state, as well as all of those who've championed it here in the district. That I'd like a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. McBride, second by Ms. Fabian. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Meeting is adjourned.
See, look, 9 o'clock.
9:02.